Of the Executive Committee of Beaufort County Council. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. I'll now ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Ms. Howard makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think that was Councilman Dawson. Is that correct? All right. We have a motion to approve the agenda and a second. Without objection, we will approve the agenda without exception. Are there any exceptions? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Next item is approval of the minutes of the April 5th meeting of the Executive Committee. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 5th meeting of the Executive Committee?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Making that motion.
I believe we had a motion by Councilman Howard and a second by Chairman Passamat. Does that sound correct? All right. We will approve the minutes without exception. Are there any exceptions? Hearing none, the minutes of the April 5th meeting of the Executive Committee are approved. Next item, citizens may join via Zoom using the link and meeting information which is contained in the agenda. Next item is a discussion regarding the elements and rules of procedures for the Handbook and officers of council. You may recall at the last meeting we approved a new article on the way meetings can be conducted at both the committee level and the council level. That was a brand new article which we collectively wrote from scratch. From now on, there are another 9 articles or thereabouts that we will approve. I want to make everyone aware, some of you are, some of you may not be, that there was a lot of work over the last several years that has gone into the editing, updating, and creation of a version of these different articles. And what has been sent to you probably sometime today is not something we're going to vote on today. It's just so you'll see the level of work that's been put into this. As I read it over, there's some things that I'm going to want to change. But just so you know, I will be sending out this week an updated or modified version of that. But this shows you the amount of work that's already been done over the last several years. You may recall that Chairman Passamat assigned Mike Covert to chair a committee on this, and Mike did that. And so the efforts from his committee and the many people that participated, including some of our legal staff who were here then and are not here now, are included. I don't think Kurt has had a chance to weigh in on this, so Kurt and Tom will obviously want to weigh in on this between now and the next time we meet. Others, and some of you, if you want to weigh in before we attack a final version, that's fine too. But at our next meeting, which will be in June, I think, we will attack 2 things. We'll attack just as you see there in front of you, we'll attack the preamble, and we'll attack article or chapter 1, which is officers, chair, parliamentarian, residency requirements, clerk to council, and ethical principles. So there's nothing really much more to do on that today. I just wanted you all to be aware of the process that I intend to use. If you have questions or concerns about the process, let me know. We have to start somewhere. And where we're starting is where we left off collectively some months or so ago. So are there any questions about the process that we're going to be using for this, for our handbook?
Yeah, I have a question on the thing that's on the screen at the moment, Paul.
Yes, sir.
That's not the final, right?
No, not even close.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I just, as you can imagine, Larry, over the years and the decades or whatever, there are changes that are made by us or by legal precedents or other things, and so this is just a starting point. That's all it is. Call it a placeholder.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Paul, Stu,
Yes, Stu.
is the version that you sent out, is that the current handbook?
No, it is not.
Okay, this is a later version.
Well, it's a later attempt at updating the existing handbook. The existing handbook was last updated in 2013, I think. I'm not sure about it. Anyway, but it's been a while. And this is, but since that time and now, there have been numerous collaborative efforts to update the handbook, and we've just never gotten to a final process. And so I'm throwing out to you the latest recommendations for change, and what I'll send out to you between now and our meeting in June will be a cleansing of that. It'll be run through our legal staff. Kurt will have to take a look at it, and Tom, and maybe some suggestions that Joe and I might have. And then, of course, if you all don't want to weigh in between now and June, that's fine, because you'll get a bite at the apple then. If you want to weigh in now with some specific thoughts, no, not right this minute, but between now and June with some specific thoughts you have, send me an email or call me. But you'll get the proposed final draft in the June packet. Anybody else?
I for one, would actually just as soon have whatever the current draft is you're looking at, and I would think all of us would. That way we can be more productive when we get to June, as opposed to trying to react to something that's already been blessed by a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not asking for a reaction now. I just want to show you the process, that's all.
Yeah. And
Okay.
anyway, I would think we all, if it's not too hard, I would send us all a copy.
A copy of what?
She did.
At least I would like one.
She did send it out. It's been just
It was sent out,
recent, just this afternoon.
Recently, okay, well, I'll find it. Okay, thank you.
yeah, everybody's got a copy of this.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to item number 8 on our agenda, which is a discussion of the uniform committee agendas. This is a discussion we probably should have had years ago. For whatever reason, we didn't. One of the reasons, I guess, is we didn't have Municode a few years ago, and I'm no expert. I'm going to allow Sarah and her staff to weigh in on this. But Municode has complicated their ability to put together an agenda. It's not a simple matter of if you want, for example, if you want to make a change, let's say it's one word, it's not as simple as sticking a word in a Word document and hitting enter. I won't begin to describe the process, but I think maybe I'll allow Sarah to show you how complicated this is. So you can begin to see why we want to have restrictions on what we can and cannot do with agendas. Sarah, you want to speak to her if you're not comfortable?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's fine.
Or Brenna's good.
No, it's fine. So, with Municode, Chairman Somerville stated that it makes it more difficult to build the agendas, but it's actually, I've found it to be extremely helpful for staff. Municode starts at the staff level, and an individual staff member will submit documents, add an agenda item title, and then it goes through what's called a workflow process. It gets sent to their direct supervisor, who reviews all the information. Then inside of the system, they route it to the appropriate ACA. And from there, it's routed through legal and finance. And then the last person to touch it sends it to the clerk. And that's when I see it pop up in our agenda in our agenda software. So it's gone through a long process by the time it gets to us, and to manipulate the wording of it messes with the flow on the right side of the screen. You'll see where it's gone, who's looked at it, what notes they've typed in. It's a really neat software, but to delete, work that somebody else has done can mess up the system, like changing titles and deleting documents, since it started at a staff level. So the basis of it is, it's not like just editing a Word document. We export it as a Word document, but the system is made to, once everybody submits an item, we should be able to click publish, and it just automatically gets published. But what we currently have to do is export it, manipulate it, bring it back in, relink everything. So it's not running the way that it's supposed to because of small format changes and things like that. So it would be helpful if all of the committee chairs agreed on a standard format for the agenda, because then we can have MuniCode build that format out for us, and then the process gets back to being easy again.
So if I may make a couple of comments, I'm aware, and some of you are aware, that any changes made in any agenda, particularly as we get towards meeting time, are extremely challenging for staff. And there have been many examples of staff having to miss lunch or work into the evening, or just stress out because of a change that could have been made, arguably, at the actual meeting. Because remember, at the beginning of every committee meeting, just like council meeting, you have the opportunity to amend the agenda. So if you want to move something from Article 6 to Article 11, or you want to delete something, or you want to wordsmith something, or whatever you want to do it at the actual meeting when you approve the agenda. Because if you try to make even the slightest little change after the agenda has been initially done, it makes it very, very difficult for staff. So as Sarah just suggested, we're going to put forward, and this will come forward in again in June, is a proposed standard format for all committees, and that'll give you an opportunity, if you want to make some changes in the format, that would be the time to do that. If there's disagreement, we'll just vote it out. Another thing is there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not to have a consent agenda on a committee agenda. And I understand, I think Kurt's on the call, I'm not going to speak for Kurt, but I understand that there's some legal problems with that. I'll let him speak to it if he wishes in just a minute. But beyond that, think about it. The purpose of a committee is to vet all sorts of things that come before us, before this body. And if we put them on a consent agenda, then I think we're probably better served just to take them straight to council. I mean, if they don't merit going through a committee, then why are we having a consent agenda on them to mass move them forward? So, in my mind, there are practical reasons why we should not have a consent agenda on a committee agenda. There are some legal considerations to that. Kurt, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am.
Are you comfortable commenting on that now, or do you want to wait till June?
Legal concerns about having a consent agenda?
On a committee agenda.
A consent on a committee agenda?
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with it. It's just a sort of a style of a way you would take up items. You could have one motion that approves the entire agenda. As long as no one objects, it can be handled that way. So I think a consent agenda can work well if council so desires.
On a committee. Okay. I thought there was some legal concern. Fair enough. Well, we'll just, if there's, when we meet again in June, if somebody wants to have a consent agenda on the template for all committees agendas, then bring it up and we'll vote it out. So there you go. It's not, you're saying there are no legal concerns, correct?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Okay, if there are no legal concerns, then it's just up to us to decide whether we want to have consent agendas or not. Larry?
So Paul, you can have a consent agenda on the new template, but it doesn't necessarily have to have anything in it. It's just available if you wish to use it. Is that right?
That's true.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see the practical nature of a consent agenda in committee. Committees are built for discussion. But just because I don't see it that way, maybe there are other committees that would find it to be very helpful. I don't particularly see it as helpful or not helpful. I mean, if it's going to be on the template and you don't have to use it, then I'm all for it.
Fair enough.
This is Stu.
Yeah, go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, I'm probably the one that initiated this. It's not a big deal, but at the last public facilities, we had probably 20 items that the vast majority of it was logical to vote on them, in mass rather than individually and go through all the motion. That's the only reason for it. But I think Larry's right. Why not have it there? You don't have to use it if you don't want to. But we, at least public facilities, get a fair number of ones that have almost no discussion. It's more of a voting mechanism.
Right.
All right, well, thank you, Stu. When we meet in June, we can discuss whether or not to have it on the agenda, so you all can be thinking whether you like it or don't like it. If you're a chair or vice chair of a committee that you might be chairing, then develop an opinion between now and June, and we'll discuss it in some detail and we'll vote it out. Anything else on the rules? I'm sorry, on the uniform committee agendas? Yes, Stu, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say I guess I pose the question. Other than the flag staff, I guess that's what you call it down the left-hand side. Does it lend itself to have the same format for committees and council? Something to think about. But in any event, having a standard one that we all agree on makes some sense. And I think the key is that we understand what the rules are and what we can't change and what we can change. I do think if we're going to bring the whole thing through, and then the first time a committee chair sees it would be the agenda review the week before. There probably needs to be some mechanism for at least the committee chairs to look at the agenda prior to agenda review, and if there's any minor changes they want to insert, then they can do it. But I'm comfortable with where we're headed.
Oh, thank you, Stu. Anybody else? All right, the next item is called an update on boards and commissions, liaison responsibilities. I guess this is kind of a reminder of some of the things we've discussed in the past regarding appointments to boards and commissions and the utilization of the liaisons and the staff liaison and the council liaison. The idea, or the concept, if you will, is that when we make appointments to these boards, agencies, and commissions, we need as much information as possible to make a good decision. And some of us regularly attend the board, agencies, commissions that we're assigned to. Some do not. And this is not a criticism of those who do not. It's simply a statement of fact. So when it comes time to select a new board member for any of these boards, agencies, and commissions, everyone on council needs as much information as possible to make a good decision. And the one source of information is the staff liaison. And the staff liaison, I think somebody suggested at one point that we don't want them to make the decision. Well, of course not. That's absolutely correct. We don't want the staff liaison to decide who goes on and doesn't go on a committee, board, or commission. But it is helpful to have a relationship with them. If you are assigned as the council liaison to a particular board, agency, or commission, then you should have at least a cell phone relationship with whoever the staff liaison is. And when you're unable to attend those meetings for whatever reason, you can pick up the phone from time to time, or you can have some kind of arrangement made with that staff liaison to communicate with you regarding the highlights, at least the highlights of what's going on in that board, agency, or commission. So when it comes time to actually make an appointment, hopefully, I think I made the comment some months ago that staff liaison should become your new best friend. I was kind of halfway kidding, but I'm also halfway serious. There's a tremendous amount of information to be had there from those folks. So just to be clear, we're not delegating our responsibility or our authority to appoint members of boards, agencies, and commissions. We're just saying use the resources that are out there. And by the way, it could be the staff liaison, or it could be the department head to whom that staff liaison reports. So it could be one of the assistant administrators. But whatever the chain of command is for the agency, board, or commission that you're assigned to as liaison, council liaison, you need to know what that chain of command looks like and have some kind of ability to communicate with those folks from time to time to update you on what's going on. And if you want to ask them a question about someone that they know, someone, let's say, is up for reappointment, you might, I mean, we'll have their attendance record, but that doesn't really tell you everything. I mean, do those folks participate meaningfully to the conversation in those boards, agencies, and commissions, or do they not? Are they helpful? Do they ask probing questions? The sorts of things that we look for in a committee member of a board, agency, or commission to make them work. So anyway, that's just kind of a gentle reminder to remember, figure out, and if you need help, ask Sarah. She'll give you the chain of command if you don't already have it, and remind you of whatever boards, agencies, and commissions you're assigned as a council liaison. So you can get as much information as possible when it's time to make a recommendation. That's all. Anybody else have any comments on boards, agencies, and commissions and liaison responsibilities? Because there are two liaisons. There's you, and then there's the staff liaison. So,
York's goes. York.
Councilmember Glover.
York, I'm sorry, York, I didn't see York.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you
Yes,
are.
sir.
Sorry.
Thank you. Let me. I got some concern about the state boards and commission at this time. I've been assigned to the Beaufort Jackson Water Authority, as well as the Disability and Special Needs Board, and they are state agency boards. And when we appoint someone or recommend someone, it's taking the state a while to confirm. So I don't know what can be done about that. And I'll give you a case in point. I know that Mrs. Drake is at the special needs, disability and special needs, and she's probably serving, but officially she's probably, I don't know whether she can vote, et cetera, et cetera. But Rob McPhee has been appointed to the Beaufort Jackson Water Authority, and it's been over 3 months, and nothing has happened yet as far as his appointment is concerned. So I don't know how you expedite that, or whether there's some other rules and procedure that needs to be changed. But you know, when you resign immediately. But when you're appointed, it takes a while before you officially confirm.
And I would second that. I know the TCL board is state appointed, and it has taken, it's a separate board from us, but it's another board, and it's taking an extremely long time.
York, you bring up a good point. I mean, I've suffered through this. I was at one time liaison to Beaufort Jasper, for example, and there are boards, agencies, and commissions that we simply nominate, and then either the governor appoints or the legislative delegation appoints, or whoever, somebody other than us actually does the appointment. And yes, there's a terrible time lag in many, if not all, of these situations. But the only thing I know to do is just continue to march and put them in there, and then if the governor or whoever it is has second thoughts, then they can deal with it. But waiting on the governor or waiting on the legislative delegation can be very frustrating. And that's not a criticism of them. I don't know what their workload looks like or what their priorities are. So, but I don't. To your question, can we do anything about it? I mean, we could send a follow-up, I guess, to the initial request to please approve the following individuals for XYZ commission. We can maybe have a tickler file and follow-up system that's better than what we have. That's worth looking into, York.
We do that. I do know there's been a turnover. There have been 3 new people in the position. I'm trying to think of what the title is, that approves boards and commissions. We have this issue with all of them. And Tiffany follows up monthly after we send the letter. And we get told that it's in the order of when they're received. So it's usually months down the road, but we do follow up continuously. Like I said, there's just been some turnover in that one position at the governor's office since I've gotten here, so it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, if I understand Sarah correctly, it's not the actual governor who does. Somebody puts his stamp on it, but the governor probably never sees the stuff. So it's a staff job up there. So it sounds like, York, to me, that we're doing everything we can. Yes, it's frustrating.
And once we send a letter, the governor's office then contacts that person directly. They mail them a packet. They require them to fill out and turn back in. And I know in a few of the cases, the people who had received the packets had not filled them out and turned them back in. So then we were now having to follow up with those individuals. So it is a longer process.
Paul?
Yeah, yes, Stu. Well, York, are you done?
Some of this may be a throwback to the way business was done before county councils and home rule came along, because so much stuff ran through the delegations. And you may remember not too long ago, we used to do this for the CTC, and then the legislature let it come back to the appointments for us. It may be worth a conversation or a nice letter to our delegation that just says, hey, this is a problem, these things are taking months, and would it make sense to allow the counties to appoint these folks? Because I don't really see what going through the state process brings to the party, but that may be a discussion with our delegation that may or may not break free.
Well, that's a good point, Stu. Next time we have a legislative delegation, a meeting for this part of the world, we can bring that up. I've been to several of them, and I know you have too, and we've made suggestions, so it's well worth doing it. Good point. Anybody else on boards and commissions and liaison responsibilities? Any thoughts?
Oh, I'd just like remind everybody to look at attendance records too when you're
Yeah,
thinking
everybody
about
hear that? The attendance records are available, and we need to look closely at those. I think there's a rule in our template ordinance that says that if you miss more than 3, you're out. I think it is.
I don't think it says it, but it's a good.
Remember?
It's a good.
Brennan.
Or Tiffany.
No, sir, it refers to, no, because remember, we had an issue where there was a council person who had been on there for like 12 years, and there wasn't a, I'm trying to think of how to say it. You're throwing me on the spot here today. There wasn't a specific way to get rid of a council person for missing meetings. It was...
You mean a commission or board member?
Yeah, that's what I meant, sorry, a board or commission member. It was multiple factors, and I can email that area that we dissected out to everybody so that they can see it.
Okay. All right, anybody else? On hearing none, all matters having been brought before this committee.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to go back to item number 8 before we adjourn.
Okay.
And make 3 comments. Number 1, the uniformity of the agendas that we're looking for are as follows. Items 1 through 6 should be standard operating procedure for every single committee, regardless of which committee it is. Now, when you come to the rest of the agenda, there should be 2 specifics there. Agenda items and executive committee. I'm sorry, not executive committee. Yeah, executive session items. That's how every single committee agenda should be established. I absolutely disagree, I'm sorry, Kurt, with the idea of having a consent agenda on a committee meeting. The purpose of the committee is to take every agenda item and dissect it, talk about it, argue about it, agree to where it's going to be placed on the upcoming council agenda, either as a resolution, an ordinance, a policy, whatever, but it is incumbent upon the specific committee to analyze what is on their agenda and determine this should go on the consent agenda of the council meeting, not have it as a consent agenda item on the committee, because what you're telling the public is, in fact, you've already looked at this and determined that we're just going to agree to this. And I don't think that's the message we want to send. And then finally, the council agenda is built on the basis of what the committees do. Once the committee does its thing and says to the clerk to council, this is what took place at this particular committee meeting, therefore it goes into Muni Code for the council agenda in this place, and the flow goes there. So I think it's very simple. I think we have the template that we need and that we should follow.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else on any of the items that we've talked about? All right, hearing none, all matters having been brought before the executive committee, we are adjourned.
Okay, can we start the second?
No, ma'am.
We have to wait till 2.
All right, so you have a break until 2 o'clock.
Before you adjourn, we never allowed the public to make any comment. Item number 6 was citizens can weigh in, and we haven't done that. So let's make sure that we follow our own procedures.
Thank you, Joe. I'll ask at this time if there were any public comments for executive committee today, or if there's anyone watching live who wishes to make a comment.
No, sir, there aren't.
Okay, none. Okay, that all matters having been brought before this committee are now, we're done, we're adjourned.